Aloha, everyone. Good evening. Um, Thank you for joining tonight's Homeowners webinar. I'm Stephanie Nakasoni Ramsey, the Public Information Officer for the county's Office of Recovery. I want to welcome you to the July Homeowners webinar, our third webinar. Um, uh, Before we get into the agenda, I just wanted to go over a few of the WebEx functions on your screen if you're on a desktop. So to the right, you see a chat box that's not turned on just to not cause distractions during presentations. But our presenters and panelists may post something in there, like a website or a phone number if they need to. So you know, if they do, they'll probably mention, hey, I'm sharing this in the chat. So that will be a place for that. Below that box on the right-hand side, the bottom right corner, there should be 3 dots. If you're not seeing the Q&A box yet, because those 3 dots will give you the option to open the Q&A box. And you can post your questions in there. You can type in questions throughout the webinar, but they will be addressed at the end during the Q&A session. Please make sure that you are addressing them, because it gives the option to address it to certain people, but please address it to all panelists. Make sure that it's set to all panelists. That way our moderators can see the questions, and they'll be collecting those in like a master doc that we have access to, and that's what we'll be using. That's what we'll be using for the Q&A questions. If you don't set it to all panelists and you ask a question, it won't be answered. So basically that can lead us into tonight's agenda. We have the Hawaii interim, we have a presentation on the Hawaii interim housing program that was kind of covered last night at the community meeting. But I know there's some people who probably weren't able to make it, didn't get to see the presentation. So they'll be here. Sherry will be talking about the state's interim housing units at Kala'iola and Hale'ola'i'e. Then we also have a presentation from Director of Public Works, Jordan Molina, about temporary structures within the impact zone. And we also have CNHA here to talk about their Kako'o Maui pre-development grant. It was announced last night. We gave out a few like one-pagers out to the audience, but they'll be able to talk a little bit more in depth about that. I know a lot of you have been asking about help with the cost of serving architects. You're going to really want to pay attention to that presentation. They'll be able to help you out with this grant. And then we also have Hawaii Community Lending here to talk about their Lahaina homeowner recovery program. And we also have Sherry from United Policyholders who will present on their services. And then we'll wrap up with Q&A. Next slide, please. So in addition to our presenters, we also have panelists here for the Q&A. In addition to Jordan, we have John Smith with Department of Public Works Highways, Kimo Landgraf from Department of Water Supply, Sheena Gawa, Department of Environmental Management, Kate Glystone from Planning Department, Wendy Tamoto, who is one of the co-leads for our housing RSF, Everett Balmores from MEMA, Colonel Swenson, USACE, Mike Renner from Four Leaf with from the Recovery Permit Center, and I believe everyone else are presenters. So we've already kind of gone over that. Next slide, please. And just a few reminders. These are a few announcements before we get started. So first off, this was announced at last night's community meeting. Just wanted to remind property owners for the Kukua Mill Camp neighborhood, there will be focus groups, 3 focus groups set up for next week for you to sign up for. It's going to be Thursday, August 1st, Saturday, August 3rd, 2 times on Saturday, August 3rd, at the Office of Recovery West Maui at Lahaina Gateway. Next slide, please. The agenda is going to kind of go over roadway and rebuild information, what is being worked on as far as rebuild in that area, what property owners can do now, and then a time for discussion. It's capped at 15 participants per session, but there will be more added if necessary. So, if you go and it says that it's full, don't worry. We will be planning to have more if necessary. But you can scan that QR code right there. Oh, sorry. Can we go back real quick? Yeah, scan the QR code right there to access the events page. And if you want to just type in the events page, it's the mauicovers.org/events. Again, that's only for property owners, in the Kuhua Mill Camp area. Next slide, please. And so this was actually news that kind of came out today, that the Federal Housing Administration published a mortgagee letter 24-15, and it's entitled Third Extension of the Foreclosure Moratorium in Connection with the Presidentially Declared Major Disaster Area in Maui County, Hawaii. Basically, the foreclosure moratorium on FHA insured mortgages, the moratorium has been extended a third time. So it gives additional time to for homeowners to access federal, state, or local housing resources, to consult with HUD-approved housing counselors, and or to rebuild their homes. So, the extension is effective through January 1st, 2025. And if you want to, so this letter actually should have been sent out though to homeowners that fall under this distinction. So you can also see though, you can also download the mortgagee letter at this QR code here. Next slide, please. And I wanted to also go over a few reminders of programs that have been talked about before, but maybe you need a reminder to take advantage of these programs. The first is All Hands and Hearts, their ineligible debris removal service. They presented during last month's webinar, and actually in a community meeting last month as well. Annie from All Hands and Hearts gave a presentation on this service, which is free of charge. So if Army Corps has completed your lot, you go there and you see that there's still debris there that they did not remove because it was deemed ineligible, you can contact All Hands and Hearts to sign up for their removal service. So there's some facts there. Just FYI, these slides and this the slides for this presentation will be posted on Maui Recovers after we're done. So we can always go back and kind of read this a little bit more. But that QR code will get you to I believe it's their intake form. So that's like a direct access to it. And then you can also, for more information on ineligible debris, as well as a link to request their service, you can go to mauirecovers.org/ineligible debris. Next slide, please. Another reminder of Waihikulī cesspool inspections. Just wanted to remind the residents of Waihikulī about this free service. Jake from CDF Engineering gave an update last night at the community meeting. They have 75 right-of entries as of last night. They're targeting, that's out of about 175 homes in the Waihikulī area, they believe, that has cesspools and can benefit from this program. They've already done 50 inspections. So, they've kind of made really good headway with the right of entries that they've already received. He did note that the service is available through the end of the year, but he's asking for help with kind of getting the word out. So if you have family, friends who are homeowners in Waihikulī, please let them know about this program. Maybe you already told them and they forgot, so just remind them in case they forgot, because it's really good to take advantage of this free service, so they can start the process of rebuilding. So for more information, you can go to mauirecovers.org/wastewater. And just wanted to note that they have you can download the form on the website there, where it's circled, and then you can also submit it through the email that's posted on the website. right underneath the download forms. And then you can also physically drop off that form at the Office of Recovery West Maui at Lahaina Gateway. There's a box set up. You can just drop it off. And next slide, please. All right, and so now we have Sherry Kajiwara to speak on the Hawaii Interim Housing Program.
Thank you, Stephanie. Aloha kako. Hello to all my fellow presenters tonight, and welcome to all of you who've joined us to learn more about all the information shared for this evening. We're really excited to get the word out that the state of Hawaii has announced a new Hawaii Interim Housing Program, also known as HIHP or HIP. We're really excited about this because, you know, the FEMA has had housing as long as with American Red Cross, and they each have had their own set of criteria. But the state housing, interim housing program, we have developed our own criteria, and we want to be sure that anyone that is eligible apply and see if they can take advantage of one of these units. So exactly what is HIP? Can we go to the next slide, please? Again, HIP stands for Hawaii Interim Housing Program. And we want to, again, make sure that everyone knows that HIP is a state-sponsored temporary housing program. And our goal here is to ensure that Maui County residents that have been displaced by the fires are assisted. We want you to know that HIP is eligible for disasters who are not yet in any type of temporary housing or whose temporary housing or whose current temporary housing is going to soon end. So take a look at this. We encourage you to apply. We'll help you walk through all of the eligibility requirements. If you are eligible and you do get a unit, the HIP units are provided to the survivors at no initial cost. We are looking right now, the funding has been approved to subsidize this housing until the summer of 2025. But we will continue to work to see what we can do past that point. But right now, it is definitely till summer of 2025. And I do need to let everyone know that just because you apply for HIP, it doesn't guarantee that you'll get a unit, but our team will work with you to ensure that everybody that applies has every advantage in attaining a unit if you're eligible. Next slide, please. So what sites are available? We are hoping that there's going to be a few more sites that come on in the future. But right now, we're really excited to let people know that there are 2 sites that we are now accepting applications for. In fact, one of the sites, I believe our first residents moved in yesterday, which was really exciting for us. So the 2 sites available now is Hale'ola'i. Many of you in Maui, you may know that as the Hagai Institute. That is in the Kihei area. The Hale'ola'i has 150 units. And again, they are available right now, and we are happy to be welcoming our first residents. The second site that we are taking applications for, we are calling it Kala'i'ola. And Kala'i'ola has 450 modular homes on that site. This one, though, will not be available for move-in until maybe a month from now or end of August. So we are taking applications, but the move-in date will not be for at least a month, where Hale'ola'i move-in is immediate. Next slide, please. We'd like to go over who is eligible for HIP. You are eligible for HIP if your primary residence was in Maui County prior to the disaster. It has to be your primary residence. So people who lived on the mainland, but you may have had a rental in Maui County and you lost it in the fire, that would probably not make you eligible. Your Maui County resident had to be your primary residence. So once that has been established, our criteria, which may be different from former housing programs, if you lost your home in the fire, definitely you would probably be able to qualify for this program. But now, if you lived outside of the burn area and you lost your home because of an economic reason, meaning you lost your business in the fire or you lost your employment, you are not able to work because of the fire, we may also be able to help you with housing through the HIP program. So what you will be asked to provide in the process is, number one, proof of identity. We do want to point out that you don't have to be a citizen for this program, where that was required in other housing programs. Citizenship is not an eligibility requirement. You do have to show somehow that you were a resident in Maui County at the time of the disaster. You may also be asked to provide, if you're claiming an economic loss, you have to provide some proof of income loss and your inability to pay your rent or mortgage currently, and any other documentation that you may have of assistance that you're getting from either insurance or FEMA, third-party providers related to the Maui wildfire. Next slide, please. Next step is, how do I apply? We want to try to make the application process as easy as possible. Again, we're here to help people who need the help that were affected by the fire. First process is an online process. So if you're comfortable on your computer, this is the website that you can go to. You have access to the online application here, and you can fill that out online. Second process, next slide. You can also apply by phone by calling 1-808-727-1550. The phones are manned Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and on Saturdays from 9 to 5 for those who cannot reach us during the workday. If you speak a different language, we do have language assistance available. And for those who have hearing or speech impairments or disabilities, there is capability to assist you through this phone system. So feel free to call it. The third process, next slide. For those of you that are just not tech savvy and you don't want to do an online application, or you just hate waiting on the phone or trying to reach somebody online, we do have an in-person process. Royal Lahaina Resort, they have an office there that will be open starting next Monday, this coming Monday, the 29th, and they will have normal business hours. I believe it's 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. If those hours don't work for you because you work during the daytime, we have established 3 evening application assistance areas. Monday the 29th from 5 to 7:30 at the Office of Recovery in Lahaina, at the Lahaina Gateway. Tuesday the 30th from 5 to 7:30, West Maui Lahaina Gateway. And on Wednesday the 31st from 2 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Cameron Center in Wailuku. So in case there are additional areas that we may establish, you can call that number, 808-727-1550, to find out if there are additional locations at a later time. Next slide. So when you fill out the application, I just want to make you aware of what you need to have with you at the time you fill out the application, whether it's online or by phone, or you come in person. You are going to need proof of identity. Again, proof of citizenship is not required. You are going to have some kind of proof of residency, of where you called your primary residence at the time of the disaster. Some proof of disaster impact. Again, can be either physical, where you lost your property, or economic, where you don't have the income to pay for your rent or mortgage in another location. You also need to bring any kind of documents that show other assistance that you are receiving, again, from either insurance, FEMA, or third party, and information of where you're currently staying, or what kind of housing you are currently being, whether it is temporary housing, or you're staying with family, or whatever your situation is. That is to help establish eligibility. But we also want you at the same time to fill out the form in case you are eligible for placement, so we know exactly what you are looking for and how we can meet your needs. First is current household composition. Who are you living with? What the ages of those people are, because we do require a background check for all household members 18 and over. So be ready to provide your household composition. Also, accessibility needs. So if you have any type of needs, disability, handlebars, things for access that you want us to consider in matching you with a unit, please make sure that we're aware of that at the time of application. We do welcome your pets. So your 4-legged friends, or any type of pets you have, be sure you give us that information of what your pet situation is so we can see if we can match you with a unit that meets your needs. I did mention the background check and any other special considerations because we are going to try to be as flexible as we can in this process. And don't assume that you don't qualify. We encourage everyone to qualify. If you have special considerations, bring them up and we'll work with you to try to see if we can meet your need. Next slide. We also want everyone who is in the HIP program to be assigned a disaster case manager. So if you do not have one, we ask that you call 211 and apply for the disaster case management program so that the DCMP, disaster case management program, can help you in a full comprehensive manner, not just housing, but they offer many other services and they can help you with continued housing if it's needed at the end of this program. So again, we encourage everyone to apply. Those on this call, if you're not in need, but you know of someone who does have an interest, please let them know about the program because we want to fill up these housing units as quickly as possible because they are available now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Just wanted to note that Sherry and Morgan back there, they may have to leave a little early before we reach the Q&A. So you're free to ask questions and for the Q&A, but we will be emailing them those questions so they can get back to you directly. So yeah, thank you so much again. So now we have Jordan Molina, Director of Department of Public Works, to talk about temporary dwellings.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jordan, Director with Public Works. My duties is overseeing building permits. So procedures on the emergency proclamation set up. Patient is particular to the birth. Folks trying to put them in line.
Excuse me, Jordan, we can't hear you.
Try that.
Just a little bit better. Talk again. We hear you, but it's light.
Give me a thumbs up from somebody if you're back now.
That's better.
Yeah, I'll just have to yell at my computer.
Now you're great. Right there's great. Thanks.
All right, so let me start over. Good evening, everybody. Jordan Molina, I'm the Director with Public Works. One of my duties is to oversee the county's building code. So today I'm here to speak to you folks about the temporary dwelling for temporary structures process that we have set up under the emergency proclamation. Today is focused specifically for property owners in Lahaina seeking to or considering using a temporary structure on your properties that have been cleaned up. So what is a temporary structure? Under our normal instances, a temporary structure is a unit permitted for 180 days or less. In this case, the emergency proclamation has expanded this use to allow temporary structures to be used as a dwelling. So structures include RVs, prefabricated living spaces, modular homes, and other structures intended to be temporary for use for temporary habitation. Last Friday, County Council passed Ordinance 5685, which extends the applicability of these temporary structure permits for use as dwellings when they're permitted under a local or state emergency proclamation, such as the one we're operating under currently. This amendment allowed these temporary dwellings to be utilized for up to 42 months, or was 3.5 years. And it provides for an additional 18 months extension from the date of the initial permit issuance. So that gives us a total of 5 years that we can allow these temporary structures to be used as dwellings under the emergency. Next slide, please. So I'll go through the steps we have set up for applying for a temporary structures permit. So before you get the submission process, there's some prep that property owners need to do. So first and foremost, we got to see that your property has completed its debris removal under either the county's the government program or the alternate program. From there, you guys will have to start preparing your documents for submittal into the permit process. First, which is organizing your site plan to show us the location of your property, your address, your street, TMK, what the layout of your lot is, how you're going to lay out and how you're going to lay out the buildings, or what's existing and how you're going to put your temporary structure on your lot. Next slide. Continuing on the site plan requirements, giving us some dimensions of the property and structures, spacing between structures, and where your connection points to your utilities will be where applicable. The additional documents you'll have to prepare are the landowner authorization in the case that you're not the property owner of record that the county has on file. You'll have to assess the value of the temporary structure for the purposes of assessing permit fees. You'll have to verify your wastewater service status, which is available on Maui Recovers as well. Next slide, please. We have a design professional electrical plumbing certification form that covers to ensure that your temporary structure you'll be using to habitate in is safe and meets the fire code and has adequate anchorage, as well as your connections, your external connections to your utilities are performed by licensed electricians and licensed plumbers. Requirement for your water meter sizing worksheet for the Department of Water Supply to review your water needs. From there, you'll have your packet ready and assembled to submit into our map system. So you'll create an account in Maps, and then you'll be in a position to submit your application online through the map system. Next slide, please. Once your application is submitted, you'll get the fee assessment, which you'll get paid by you folks. Then the reviews will be initiated. Once those reviews are complete, if there's any comments, we'll need you folks to address those comments from the agencies. And once you're approved, then you can proceed with placing your structure on your property and dwelling inside of it on your lot again. Next slide, please. As far as getting utility services back on your property, once you have your temporary structures permit approved, Hawaiian Electric will be able to give you temporary power to your lot. And that's going to require, again, that your licensed electrician performs those connections. For water, you can contact the Department of Water Supply to get your water service reestablished, and you get your meters put back if they haven't been yet. Again, here, when you connect to your water meter from the water meter to your structure, we're going to want to see that work is done by a licensed plumber. And lastly, for your sewer connections, contacting our wastewater division to confirm that your sewer service is back online and ready to start serving your temporary structure. again, requiring that those connections be done by a licensed plumber. Next slide, please. Oh, and that's all I have for today. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Before we get to Dustin, really quickly, Sherry and Morgan, if you don't mind, we actually have a few questions that have already popped up about your program. I kind of just wanted to see if you will be able to answer those before, in case you guys have to leave in a little bit. Is that okay?
Sure. Be glad
All
to.
right. Okay. All right. So one of the questions is, I already applied and received an email stating that the Kihei location is what is available with Lahaina coming later. If I decline going to Kihei, does that mean I will be disqualified for assistance via this program, or will I just be placed on a list for the preferred location?
Okay, so what happens is we do highly encourage all applicants that if you are offered a unit that meets your needs as you've identified them, we encourage you to take that, because if you don't have a valid reason for declining it, and again, we are going to try to be as flexible as we can in the criteria process, but if it's just a preference and you'd rather not, your name will probably be placed at the end of the list. And again, the Kihei one is available now, but the one in Lahaina, that will not be available to end of the month, and you would be at the end of the list. So we encourage you to take the one that's offered if you can make that work.
Okay. And a kind of a related question to that, is there a way for applicants to list a preference for say they prefer to work, they prefer to be in Lahaina because of work, or?
Okay, so like you mentioned, you should list your preference if you'd like to, but you'd have to give the reason. So those are some of the reasons we will look at for making a good match, like place of employment, schools that your kids go to, any other family reasons you need to be in a certain area. Those would all be reviewed, and they would be considered at the time of matching someone with a unit.
Okay. And then also the HIP states no initial costs. This seems to infer that there will be a cost at some time later. What are those costs, and when do the payments related to these costs begin?
So we want to let everyone know that we're at the early stages. We just started. We do have funding. The governor has approved funding for these units, and that includes utilities. So that is fully covered until the summer. I think it's the end of August 2025. But from now until that time, we are seeking additional funding, approval for additional funding so that it can continue. But right now we can say it is definitely 2025. Again, it may be determined on a case-by-case basis. If in the future there is a rental share type of situation, it will be very affordable, because again, the whole premise of this program is to help people that need help.
Okay. I think this question may be for you. If not, then we can always ask later. Does this apply to those of us who lost our homes but are building a temporary structure not in the fire zone, as my property in Lahaina hasn't even been cleared yet?
I might ask Morgan to help me with that one.
For any individual case, we just encourage you to apply and supply information, and one of our HIP team members will work through you and determine your eligibility. So any case like that, if you were impacted by the fires, please apply. I dropped in the chat the link to the website where you can click there, and then also the phone number that you can call for application assistance as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. That's the questions that we have for now. Thank you so much for being able to answer those. And then I guess that we'll now move to Dustin from CNHA to speak on the on their program. I'm sorry, escaping the pre-construction grants. Oh, there we go.
All right, aloha everybody. Next slide, please. All right, so Kako'o Maui, Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, we've just launched our Kako'o Maui Pre-Development Grant, and this is available to any Lahaina and Kula homeowners whose primary residence was deemed destroyed or uninhabitable due to the August 2023 wildfires. And approved households are eligible to receive up to $15,000 in funding to cover pre-development needs to rebuild or return to your primary residence. Next slide, please. So qualification for this, your primary residence has to have been destroyed or deemed uninhabitable as a result of last year's wildfire, and you must have been the homeowner prior to the date of the disaster. You must also intend to rebuild within 365 days of your application's approval, and there will only be one grant awarded per TMK. So for families who have multiple structures on one property that are owned by different folks, we've already come into this problem. We'll take all of those at a case-by-case basis as far as awarding these grants to multiple homeowners on each property. Next slide, please. Oh, I guess this is kind of the same slide, but with one more thing at the bottom. Uh, Grantees must be at 150% of the area median income or below, and those numbers are there on the side. They're also on our website, helpingmaui.org, and I will drop the link into the chat before I finish the presentation here. Next slide, please. All right, so this grant is for professional services such as hiring an architect, an engineer, any fees for permits and or your site survey. If you've seen us present at any of these meetings before, you know that CNHA is working with the American Institute of Architects Maui chapter. We have a few different architectural firms that are providing either free or very reduced prices for planning and permitting, as well as amending any of the plans that we have on our website. So that's something to take into consideration. It can also be used for interest rate buy down and loan closing costs if you're applying for a construction loan or mortgage refinancing, cost estimation, budget consultation, or any other necessary site work that you need to have done prior to constructing your new residence. We require proof of financial empowerment or financial literacy counseling throughout the time that we're working with you if your grant is approved. You must also be enrolled or in the process of enrolling in the State of Hawaii Disaster Case Management Program, participate in monthly online progress report surveys, and just to remind you folks, this residence must be owner occupied. Next slide, please. Just real quick on the tail end of that pre-development grant, like I said, I'll put the link in the chat. I want to remind everyone that in addition to the state's housing program, we do have units available in Maulilani at Keaumaluhia. These are our 2-bedroom units, just under 600 square feet. Those are going for $1,850 a month. And the next slide, please. And for anyone that's been on Lahaina Luna Road or who has seen the news, we're also debuting our development in Lahaina, La'iku, right off of Lahaina Luna, right below Lahaina Intermediate. Same thing, 2 bedrooms, just under 600 square feet. These are going for $1,750 a month. I'll put the links to the applications for both of those developments in the chat. Next. And then our resource webpage, anything I talked about, architectural plans, if you need help finding a builder or financing help, that will all be on helpingmaui.org. Next. Just some of the plans that we have available on our website. These are those free or reduced price plans that you can use your pre-development grant for if it is approved. Next. Next. And then our Kaku'o Maui office at Maui Mall. And I think the next slide might be for our distribution center. No. All right. Kaku'o Maui at Maui Mall and our distribution center at Maui Marketplace. Again, I'll put the information into the chat right now. All of our contact information is on the website as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dustin. And next we will have Shinojo Sara from Hawaii Community Lending.
Aloha, everybody. Next slide, please. My name is Chanel Josiah. I'm going to be going over our Lahaina Homeowner Recovery Program that was launched in early May, our interest form, and we officially kicked off the program on July 15th. So we want to mahalo all of our funders and our partners. You can go to the next slide, please. I'm not sure if any of you folks are on the call, but mahalo to you folks. Next slide. We're partnering with a bunch of people across the Pai'aina to help to get this project off of the ground. This project has multiple phases, so we'll go over that here in just a bit. But for those of you who are not familiar with Hawaii Community Lending, we're a nonprofit organization, community development financial institution loan fund. We were founded in 2002 on the Paukukalo homestead by Native Hawaiian community to help folks that primarily live on homestead, buy, build, and save homes from foreclosure. Next slide, please. Our expertise really began in 2002 as a program under Hawaiian Community Assets, our parent organization, where we focus primarily on mortgage brokering. First starting out in the Paukukalo homesteads and later on in Princess Kahanu and later on in La'iopua and also in Lahaina, the Ali'i. Towards 2011, 2012, we pivoted to doing foreclosure prevention work, so which was lease cancellation at that time, again, primarily on homesteads. And later on in 2018 through 2022, we did emergency loans, which covered the lava that happened in Big Island, floods on Kauai, and then later on the COVID-19 pandemic. We ended up obtaining our nonprofit mortgage originators license in 2023 and launched our Kapili construction loan program in response to limited access to capital for construction lending on Hawaiian homelands. When the August Maui fires happened, we felt like it was our kuleana to go back to Leali'i and see how we could kokua them. And what came out of that is a larger kuleana to the broader Lahaina to help them reestablish and bring them home, bring Ohana home. Next slide, please. So the program, the Lahaina Homeowner Recovery Program, is aimed at assisting 500 Lahaina homeowners prevent foreclosure and rebuild their home and bring them home to Lahaina. We are partnering again with numerous agencies across the state. And we have a team that is dedicated and on the ground in Lahaina that are helping folks day to day gather resources, collect data, making sure that they're staying on track and they're staying motivated as well, because we understand that it is hard to stay focused and also motivated as time goes on. We're approaching a year shortly here post wildfire. And we're seeing a lot of nuances. And so this program, while it had its original intention of focusing on one thing, we're realizing that the complexities from family to family is so broad and the nuances are so deep that we're needing to expand our partnerships across the state to make sure that there is a continuity of care that is happening. And so what we're doing from the get-go, next slide, please, is we're meeting with families, and the primary place to meet at is the Kako'oleli trailer that is serving all of Lahaina, not just those that live on the Ali'i. Since its start at the Leali'i trailer, we've assisted over 75 survivors. I think now we're upwards of about 150 to 200 now, access over $250,000 of combined assistance through community agencies, through our own internal programs through Hawaiian Community Assets and others. We have connected 42 families with a public insurance adjuster that has been a monumental, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how huge his impact has been with the families that thought that they would not receive much insurance monies. But we have been able to secure families with six-figure insurance settlements when they were only offered five figures and sometimes even less than that. So that I want to say is probably our biggest win so far. We have about 40 families or so that received independent industrial hygienist testing. If you folks are not familiar with that, this is a different type of hygienist testing than your regular insurance companies provide. And Sherry might be able to talk a little bit about that, as they're very familiar with what that provides. But it's a comprehensive scientific test that happens, and when the results come back, it's outlined on how to remedy the findings of those hygienist testing. And this has also been a huge impact on the results that we're seeing, and contributes directly to bringing families home to Lahaina. And of course, we're ongoing taking people in for the program. We're about 50% capacity right now for the program. Next, please. So a lot of people ask, like, well, what is in it for me? Like, how do I know that I qualify? Or how can you help me? Well, the answer is not so simple, because there is about 20 different pathways for homeowners, just depending on their financial hardship, whether or not they have a mortgage, whether or not they want to rebuild, or if they want to sell. It also depends on whether or not the home was destroyed or damaged, whether or not it's a single family home or maybe it's a condo, and what types of insurance or how large the insurance proceeds was, and whether or not they have an SBA loan. So we're basically capital stacking to make sure that we can get folks home and rebuild at the most affordable rate as possible, and as quickly as possible as well. So if you're not sure if you're eligible for the program, do not self disqualify. As another panelist mentioned, don't self disqualify. Everybody should just apply for everything that is made available to them and go through the process. And that may be a lot to ask, but our navigation specialists internally will help you with all of the applications that are out there and help answer any questions or direct you to the person that will have the best answer. Eligibility is super simple. You have to be a Lahaina homeowner, and you have to have been a homeowner prior to the August 8th fires. Next slide, please. The program is broken up into 4 phases, which comprise of primarily all technical assistance. So it's you working with a navigation specialist that is helping see you through. So phase 1 is the most simple. It is basically doing the interest form and the application. It's one and the same. Meeting with a navigation specialist that completes your client enrollment and asks for some preliminary documents, such as insurance settlement letter and SBA loan eligibility letter, and maybe a FEMA eligibility letter. After that's collected and that is done, you move into phase 2. And phase 2 is where now the homeowner is needing to engage more deeply with our senior navigation specialist to complete a roadmap, a homeowner roadmap. So that is now you're deciding, okay, yes, I want to keep my home. No, I want to sell. I want to keep it, but this is what I'm kind of envisioning my home to now look like, or my situation. This is kind of where I want it to be. And the navigation specialist is not there to tell you what to do. They're there to give you options so that you can choose what is best for you and your family going forward. On the back end, we have more internal staff that is working with your mortgage servicer if you have a mortgage, and they're completing a delinquent loan assessment. They're looking at who your investor is with your mortgage. What type of mortgage do you have? What is your monthly payment? So they're looking at all kinds of factors. But in the background, they're working to secure a forbearance or a long-term forbearance, or maybe even a loan modification up front. All of this is really contingent on whether or not your loan servicer is wanting to participate heavily, or they're kind of just kicking back. So just know that our internal staff, our home preservation team, is working diligently to ensure that your mortgage stays maikai the whole way through. Once we get past phase 2 and we drop into phase 3, this is the pre-construction phase. Very similar to what Jordan explained, their process is. That's what pretty much the pre-construction is. It's getting your home plans, making sure we're securing financing or looking at the financing options, getting together a rebuild budget, making sure you're staying on task with that, doing more assessments, surveys, appraisals, permits, all of that stuff. That's all considered pre-construction. And then the last phase is the actual construction, and then the construction to permanent mortgage loan takeout. So the construction loan is going to be separate from a permanent mortgage loan takeout. And sometimes people do what's called a one-time close. I don't know if this is going to be doable because of the situation and the circumstances. But for us, our program is going to be split into two different loans, a construction loan and then a permanent loan. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned, May is when our interest form open. June, we begin engaging with the community. So we've been doing outreaches, online outreaches, in-person outreaches. We've been just, word of mouthing our way through in most cases. In July, our application opened on the 15th. And in August is when majority of our preliminary reviews will be dropping into phase 2, and we'll actively start building out the homeowner roadmap and doing our delinquent loan assessments and homeowner action plans. Next slide, please. If you folks are interested, you guys can visit our website. We have a lot of information there. Our interest form and application form is listed there. You can contact us by phone. We prefer you folks to send an email instead. We do have people working around the clock at all hours of the night, making sure that we're responding to requests and questions in a timely manner. And the QR code will also bring you directly to the interest form. So, mahalo nui.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, we have Sherry Peterson from United Policyholders.
Okay, aloha. I'm trying to figure out how to get my face on here and it's not working. But I do have sound, right?
You're coming through great, Sherry.
Okay, great. Okay, so aloha and good evening. I'm Sherry Peterson and I am the Equal Justice Works Fellow with the United Policyholders. I'm here helping with the recovery, and I do take appointments in Kahului on Thursdays and at the Lahaina Gateway on Fridays, and my contact information is on this slide. Before going forward, I want to let everybody know that we, United Policyholders, is happy to announce that our Roadmap to Recovery program has been officially funded by the Hawaii Community Foundation. So we're very grateful for that. And that will allow us to begin offering webinars and in-person educational programming to guide wildfire survivors through the recovery process. So that's something you can look forward to. If you go to our website at uphelp.org, you can sign up to get notification for when that happens. Some of the programming will include how to move through the recovery process, from how to read and understanding your policy to dealing with your mortgage company and insurance proceeds. So next slide, please. United Policyholders has been around for over 30 years. We're a national 501c3 nonprofit that has been a trusted resource for information and a respected voice for insurance consumers in all 50 states. We do not take money from insurance companies. We don't work for insurance companies. We don't sell any insurance policies. We're strictly funded by donations and grants and volunteer work. So you can't hire us. Our services are free, but our services are limited. We do not offer legal advice or adjuster services, but we are here to walk with you through the process of navigating your insurance policy and your claim. Next slide, please. The website, this is our website right here, uphelp.org. This is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are one-click links to sign up for events and email notifications. There are a number of sample letters and claim forms in there. If you need specific ones, you can email me and I can locate them and send them to you. There are links to pro-consumer professional help. There are survivor speak tips, and that's where the upcoming workshops and resources will be posted. So next slide, please. So your insurance, you've paid your premiums, and it is there to get you back where you were before your loss. You need to understand your insurance policy, and each policy is different. And that is something that we can help you do. We can sit down with you and your insurance policy and go through that with you basically line by line. In order to restore your assets and collect all the available insurance funds that are available to you, to assert your rights and ask for what you need, you do need to be proactive. And so we are here, and I am here to help you navigate through that process. Next slide, please. So you will need to manage your claim, which is a very, very cumbersome process, especially still this soon after the disaster. But you need to be aware of timelines within your policy because the clock keeps ticking. And an insurance claim on a total loss, a partial loss, or smoke damage can be almost a full-time job. So we're here as your trusted partner to give you the resources to help you manage your claim. Next slide. We also have a survivor to survivor monthly forum, and I will be putting those on different Facebook websites. Also, if you're signed up with uphelp.org, you're going to get notice of those. The Survivor to Survivor monthly forum is for survivors only, and it's run by survivors only. It's there to let you know that you are not alone and that nobody else understands what you're going through like another survivor. Other survivors are able to provide you insights and best practices on how to manage this process. Next slide, please. So again, you can register at uphelp.org to stay informed on what's happening with our program and on the United Policyholders Maui wildfires, roadmap to recovery program webinars and events, because we do try to update that regularly to provide announcements and information that's pertinent to homeowners. And I believe that's the last slide. So thank you all for your attention this afternoon, and I look forward to meeting you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sherry. Now we can head into Q&A. I'm going to start off with a few of the pre-submitted questions that were submitted to our form on Maui Recovers. So let me see here. Oh, let me just meet Sherry here. So first off, this question may be for Wendy with our housing RSF. Excuse me. We decided not to rebuild and buy somewhere else on Maui. Has the process for, excuse me. Hold on, sorry, really quickly. I have a bit of a scratch in my throat. We decided not to rebuild and buy somewhere and buy somewhere else on Maui. Has the process for us to use 4-leaf been established yet? At the last meeting, we were told it was being worked on.
Hi, thank you. The process for permitting for these cases will not be done by 4-leaf at this time. Persons who are interested in receiving an expedited permit for these special cases should contact the Office of Recovery, and they will forward that person to myself or Carla for triaging. Thank you. Can you please type the number, Stephanie, or somebody in the chat for everyone to see?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I was just gonna add, we actually moved offices a few weeks ago, so our phone lines are still not connected. We're having a little bit of trouble that way, but I will put
Put the
the
email.
email.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, that's the best way to contact you. Thank you. Let's see next. This is for Jordan. Pretty simple question. Are setbacks being enforced?
This might have to have Kate chime in, but yeah,
Oh,
setbacks are being enforced, unless you have a non-conforming condition, and I'll hand it off to Kate to talk about that aspect. Thank you.
thank you.
Hi there, this is Kate. So we do have a bill going through the council right now that would allow some of those non-conforming uses to reestablish themselves. The timeline for that, so we already have existing code that says that you can reestablish a use that a non-conforming use after a year, but this would extend that time frame for that non-conforming use to be established. So that might be something to consider, but also to yeah, I mean, what Jordan said is true. When we review building permits, we're reviewing against the zoning code that's in place, unless there's some other reason not to. So, and without specifics, it's difficult to make a call. But thanks.
Thank you. Want to go over to, okay, I guess it's just more clarification, Jordan, on the temp structure presentation. Just wanted to reiterate that someone is asking, is there a time limit for the temporary structures?
Thank you. Yeah, so the ordinance that was recently passed, the temporary structures are allowed for up to 5 years from the date we issue. Thank you.
Thank you for reiterating that. This one should be for chemo with the Department of Water Supply. When can we get our water meter installed? We need water to keep the dust down and rebuild in Waihikulī.
Okay, so if you haven't applied to get your meter reinstalled, you need to call the phone number 808-270-7730, and then you will be put on a list. And right now we're trying to prioritize people who have permits and are ready to start building. But we will get to you, and hopefully not too long of a wait. It's just that we got to get through so many to get the permits, that people have permits right now.
Right. Okay. And chemo is also on a kind of related note, in Upper Waihikulī, they just kind of want to know if there's an estimation of when they will have drinking water restored in that area.
Okay, so we expect to have everything cleared, the remainder of Lahaina, by the 2nd or 3rd week of August.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Kimo. Okay, let me jump to some of the questions that were asked tonight. Let's see here. This will be for Jordan. So it says here, so after the time period allotted, do those quote unquote temporary structures become illegal and thus will incur fines? In other words, if we think we can use a tiny home to replace our home that got destroyed because insurance will not cover full replacement, we'll kind of be back at square one.
So after the 5-year period ends, use of that temporary structure will no longer be allowed and it'll have to be removed, or you could find yourself in violation and subject to enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then also related to temporary structures again, Jordan, are you saying water, electric, and sewer must be back online before we can place a temporary dwelling on our property? Specifically, this person is asking about the Wahikuli area. Can we place a quote unquote weekend dwelling there prior to meeting those criteria? And will we be proactively contacted once the water, sewer, and electric come back online for us?
Yeah, so through Maui Recovers, we have been actively messaging where those water and sewer restorations have been completed. So please refer to Maui Recovers for that information. You'll be able to get your services restored after you obtain a permit. Some of those services will already be restored, like Kimo mentioned earlier. The biggest one that's going to be requiring that temporary permit for is your power. HECO will not issue you a temporary power until they see that you have obtained a permit. Thank you.
Thank you. This is for CNHA from your presentation. Dustin, what does quote unquote show proof of financial empowerment or literacy counseling mean?
If you're not currently working with a program that's providing financial literacy, financial counseling, we do have financial literacy counseling in-house here at CNHA, and that's something that we'll set up for anybody that is approved for the grant.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And this refers to, this question refers to Hawaii Community Lending, your program. This is asking, will HCL assist with reverse mortgages? We won't foreclose per se, but the reverse mortgage company continues to add interest to the reverse mortgage loan total. Yeah,
it's hard for us to say without really looking. It is on a case-by-case basis. We have, I think, two or three families right now that are in a reverse mortgage situation. It requires kind of a deep dive. So I would say give us a call or email us and we can contact you tomorrow or maybe next week, whatever is best, and we can look at your situation and give you more guidance on it.
Thank you. This is another question for you, Chanel, actually. Can homeowners who lost homes in a multifamily structure qualify for your mortgage assistance program, even if their HOA is who will be responsible for building their homes?
Yes, and it does depend on what HOA that you're a part of. But yes, you guys will all qualify. As long as you are a homeowner in Lahaina and have been a homeowner prior to the fires, you're eligible for the program. Where it gets a little bit sticky is the components, or really what your situation is and all the circumstances around your situation. So again, yeah, don't self-disqualify, just come through it and we'll give you more. We'll try to give you more certainties early on versus later on in the program.
All right, thank you. This question is for, I think for Everett with NEMA. I am in zone 9, sorry, this is a pre-submitted question. I am in zone 9J and it feels like the debris removal is wrapping up. When do you anticipate the reopening of zones, assuming that drinking water is safe? Do all the zones need to be ready before reopening them for people to move back in, or will you be reopening them as they are ready?
Yes, thanks for that question. Zone opening is more on whether or not the utilities like water, electricity, wastewater is available. That makes the zone habitable. There is some other factors involved with, including to make sure that the zone is safe itself, meaning that sidewalks, roadways are safe for our residents to actually navigate through, whether driving or walking. So no trip hazards, no other hazards that are in place, specifically the BMPs, right? So you don't want to have it still in place and someone trips and then falls and gets injured. But yes, the as far as if there's drinking water and all the other necessities, wastewater, electric, then we move on to considering how we open up those zones. In 9J, let's see, we possibly anticipate maybe I think it was I don't know, it'll be shortly, maybe in the next couple months or so, but we are actively working to identify zones to actually open up. Like I said, different factors come into play. Thank you.
Thank you. So the question for Chanel. We have a navigation specialist already and provided all the documents, but we're told the program did not start yet. Does that mean we're stuck in phase 1 of the program process?
No, so that probably means that you're done with phase 1. Phase 1 was really, as people were coming in May, we didn't want it to bottleneck and it take longer for us to get folks to phase 2. So we started soft rolling the program in the background. So now that the program is at full launch as of July 15th, in August, the week of August 5th is when you folks will see new emails coming through showing that you guys are now in phase 2, and now you're going to meet with our senior navigation specialists. So you'll be moving from phase 1 to now phase 2, effective the first week of August.
Thank you. And one more quick question, Chanel. This attendee is asking, can I do the application process for my aunt because she has a hard time understanding things?
Is it a language barrier or is it comprehension?
It doesn't specify in this question, but I don't know if you can give an answer for either situation.
So if it's a language barrier, we do have interpreter services. And if it's comprehension and they're just not that they don't understand, but they're having a hard time making the connection to the program and the concept behind it, then yes, you can apply with them, but they still have to be the primary, and we will have to get an authorization to release signed by the actual applicant.
All right, thank you. This question came in on one of the pre-submitted questions, and we had some discussions about it today. So I'm not sure if there's if Aaron or someone can speak to this. Is some people have had trouble accessing their closeout packages. Just some trouble with the maps, where most people are able to go in and download their closeout package. They have tried to contact someone from the county and they haven't been successful. So is there another way that they can get their closeout package, basically?
Thanks, Stephanie. The closeout packages that are shown on Maui Recovers are updated as Army Corps sends. So even if, though, it says on the Army Corps map that it's totally closed out, we may not have received the closeout package to the Dropbox, which is connected to the map that gets uploaded. We will be providing a little tutorial, though, shortly that shows you how to access through the maps system, because it's ultimately tied to the property and you can see it as a permit in the map system as well. So we'll be updating that, but Other than that, for the moment, keep checking, and you're of course welcome to email me if you have an issue. I'll put my email in the chat for everybody's reference. Thanks.
Thank you, Erin. Let's see. This is another relating, I believe, to the 5-year for the temporary structures. Talking about relating to that. So does this apply to those of us who lost our homes but are building a temporary structure not in the fire zone, as my property in Lahaina hasn't even been cleared yet?
Yeah, so you can apply for temporary structures outside of the burn zone as well. I guess the one thing there is we're gonna have to just verify water and sewer. We're just gonna have to verify that the property you're putting your temp structure on has adequate services, and the fire department will have to want to review also where the site that you're proposing to put your temporary structure. But yes, you can also use that process to get a permit for a temporary structure outside of the burn zone. Thank you.
I think this was clarified earlier, Jordan. There was another question just saying, is there a permit required for temporary permit for temporary structure? Basically, I think they're asking, in order to get the power turned back on, do they need to, let's see, they're asking, in order for this to get the power turned back on, is there, does it need to be a permanent rebuild permit needed, or is the temporary permit good?
No, you can get power restored with a temporary structures permit.
Okay, thank you.
I guess just to note that it'll be a temporary power connection, and they're going to want to see that, of course, that work is done by a licensed electrician, consistent with your permit approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see here. This is for a CNHA. If we establish a case with HCL, Lahaina Homeowner Recovery Program, can this be an alternate to a case with DCMP? I don't want to have a case with DCMPs, HCL, and policyholders, United policyholders. Too many cases to keep track of.
Good question. Like a lot of the other things that we'll ask for as part of your application, everything is reviewed on a case-by-case basis. I won't discourage you to apply if you're not with the DCMP. Put in your application. If you have the ability to give us a call, shoot us an email, or visit us in person, we can better address that to you directly. Thank you.
Thank you. This question is for Colonel Swenson. My property on Komomai Street, when will that huge mountain of crushed up cement be moved from the mill yard? It grows by the day. My car in and out was covered in that many days. I guess I was too. I can't, oh, this is some words missing here. But basically, they want to know when that will be removed. They have photos if necessary.
Yeah, thanks for that question. The contract we have with our prime contractor for the residential debris removal is through the end of January. They have entered into a private agreement with the landowner that owns Pioneer Mill. So they could be there longer than January, but they are motivated to complete the mission not later than January. And completing the mission means that they have removed all of that concrete. We are working with the Department of Health, making sure that we have proper air monitor coverage in that vicinity. Also, just of note, there's also a couple crushed concrete operations or crushed gravel operations going on in the community, which could also be contributing to some of the dust. But our crews are working really hard to keep the dust down using a variety of water applications throughout the day. Thank you.
Thank you. This question is for possibly for Everett, and if anyone else can chime in on this as well. We are worried about building materials being stolen, mostly overnight, as no one is living on our street. Will we have security during rebuilding?
Uh,
Uh,
that's a little bit tricky question on that, or I should say it's depends on how you look at it. If the zone is restricted still and you are rebuilding, then obviously there's going to be security around. If the zone is unrestricted, as in Komomai Street at this time, then it is just like a regular construction site. So depends on where you live, and if the way you look at it, if the zone is restricted or unrestricted at the time.
all right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Let's see. Going back to some of the questions. This is for Jordan with the temporary structures again. Is there any expedited permitting process for the temporary structures on my lot?
Yeah, the process to get a temporary structures is a lot less rigorous than your typical building permit. So in the burn zone, back on your existing residential lot, it'll be fairly quick to turn around that approval, provided the application is complete that we receive. Thank you.
Question for Kate. Basically, can we just get an update and info on SMA?
Yeah, hello, folks. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there with this question. I feel like I answer it 40 times a day. So right now, just to be clear, we have an existing SMA and shorelines process, and you can apply right now through our existing process. I got confirmation yesterday that our corporation council is almost complete with reviewing the new SMA or special management area and shoreline rules, and we're hoping to have the mayor sign those on Friday. What will happen at that point is that'll start a 30-day period where the old rules will still be effective, but the new rules are kind of phasing in, and those won't start and be effective until 30 days after the mayor's signature. So when that happens, the new rules will apply. And so we'll have an opportunity, we'll be working out in the community and helping people understand what the new rules are. So be on the lookout for that. And we're going to do, for shorelines folks, we're going to do one-on-one conversations, and I'll have more to say about that as soon as we get the website up and running. But for now, just as a reminder, again and again, until the end of time, we have a shorelines and an SMA process currently, and you can go through that process if you're eager to get going. Some of your neighbors already have. So I just want to encourage you, if you want to get going, that's one way to do it. Mahalo.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, Kate. We're kind of running up against time here. One more question I wanted to direct over for Sherry over at United Policyholders. It's just a question from one of the attendees about, I guess, something that they were told. Is it common that an insurance company will tell a homeowner that more money will be available to them to furnish a home, etc., when the home is fully built only?
I have to look at your policy. There's generally 4 parts to your homeowner's policy. There's the dwelling portion, there's the property portion, there's the liability portion, and then there's the loss of use portion. So the answer to your question depends on whether you you had you were covered for actual value or replacement value, and then what other items may be available to you for inflation, etc. Most of the insurance companies have paid out the actual cash value and will not pay the replacement value until the home is replaced or until the items that were listed in your inventory are replaced. So that's sort of the general answer. But if you want a more specific answer, I'm happy to go over the insurance policy with you and what communications you had with your insurance company and help you figure that out. But you may be entitled to more money than you think you are, depending on what endorsements you have on your policy.
All right. Thank you so much, Sherry. So basically, yeah, contact Sherry. She can help you out. So again, yeah, we're kind of rubbing up against time here. We do have a lot of more questions that we weren't able to get answered tonight, but our effort to get these questions to the different panelists that are here. We'll email them, whether it's CNHA or HCL or Sherry or one of our county employees. We'll get their answers to these questions and we'll get them posted on My Recovers on the same page that will have this webinar, recording of this webinar posted as well, along with the slides. So that'll be, look out for that. We may have to get the answers right, very, lickety split, but we'll get them as soon as we can to get them posted on there. Again, I know there's a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to tonight. But I just want to thank our presenters and panelists for their participation and providing a lot of valuable information. Again, as a reminder, the video recording of the webinar will be available on myrecovers.org. There's a link to past community meetings, I believe it's called. So it has not only our homeowners meetings, but a link to uploaded videos of our community meetings on Wednesdays that you can see it there. We hope to get that uploaded by tomorrow, but if not, then please check back on Monday. We'll try to get it up as soon as we can. Looking ahead a little bit, we are already in the planning stages for next month's homeowners webinar, hoping to provide more information on all different areas of rebuilding and recovery. So kind of keeping in the cadence of how we've kind of been having these at the last Thursday of each month. It's tentatively set for Thursday, August 29th, same time, 5:30. But please check back on myrecovers.org for any updates, and we'll be sending out notifications and announcing it when it is set. But kind of, you kind of penciled it in for that date. But with that, I want to thank you again all for attending, and take care and have a good night.